Now, there's been any amount of discussion about changes in political leadership in the coalition parties, and I've addressed that earlier this week. It should be pointed out again, though, that the new National Party leader, Littleproud, said on Monday he'd been dreaming since he was 4 of becoming leader of the National Party. You can gauge where his priorities lie, can't you? They weren't about you or the bush or the betterment of the nation, but rather using the National Party to advance his own ambitions. The Littleproud leadership will be a policy and ideas vacuum of little help to Peter Dutton. But with a new government and its ministers being sworn in yesterday, the really hard stuff starts. There is no use gilding the lily. The global economy is slowing. Inflation's rising, and with both interest rates heading north, our economy is on a knife edge. I've referred several times to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, which has generated an energy shock in the global economy. I'll look at that later in the program, but the net zero commitment, even at this early stage, looks at best fanciful. While approximately 80% of the new cabinet have ministerial experience, that doesn't apply to the two people in charge of the economy, Jim Chalmers and Katie Gallagher. Gallagher's biggest previous job was First Minister in the ACT. She's utterly unsuited for this important role. Jim Chalmers, on the other hand, has spent most of his life, as one person put it, managing and manoeuvring in the backroom of Labor politics. He was the Chief of Staff and Principal Advisor to the then Federal Treasurer Wayne Swan. Well, was Jim Chalmers advising Wayne Swan in 2010 when Mr Swan said, quote, "We're getting back into surplus in 3 years, come hell or high water," unquote. Of course, it never happened. Was Jim Chalmers advising Mr Swan in 2011? And this is the role of the Chief of Staff, when his boss Wayne Swan said, quote, "Delivering a 2012-13 surplus is right for confidence and it's right for jobs. It's the right economic policy for the times," unquote. Of course, it didn't happen. Labor had been promising a surplus in 2012-13 since May 2010. Mr Chalmers was with Treasurer Swan for all those years. Perhaps his judgment has improved. We hope so, because to be fair to Chalmers and the incoming Labor government, and it is a reality we must face, the Morrison government leaves Australia with the worst fiscal record of any post-war government. Peter Dutton is going to have to be careful attacking the new government on the economy. The coalition inherited gross national debt at 20% of GDP. By the time COVID struck, it was up to 28%. There had been no crisis. It's now 42.5% of GDP. Someone, and it's got to be Chalmers, is going to have to get serious about managing the economy, because the budget papers tell us that debt will climb to 44.9% of GDP in 2 years' time. Now, forget the politics. That is almost twice as bad as the worst performance by a Labor government in the last 50 years.